Tom Cotton. Senator, you have suggested we ought to walk away from the table, and of all people now, Howard Dean agrees with you. But yet, even after the statement yesterday that Israel's destruction is non-negotiable, you got Obama and Kerry still pushing for a deal. Why?
Sean, we're negotiating from a position of weakness. It's very clear, since we've now extended yet another day past our own deadline that President Obama said we shouldn't extend past, that we are desperate to get a deal. The foreign ministers of France and Russia and China all left the negotiations. And it just goes to show how desperate we are to get any kind of deal, even if it's a bad deal. I just think that we should negotiate from a position of strength. That's why we should have walked away when we hit a deadline. I don't know any Arkansan with an ounce of common sense who would negotiate for a used car, for a home in this fashion, yet that's what we're doing right now.
Shouldn't it be a prerequisite that they take back their statements about death to America, that, to quote this general, Israel's destruction is non-negotiable? Shouldn't that be a prerequisite before even sitting down with the Iranians?
I think you have to question the wisdom of granting any concessions, especially nuclear concessions, to a country led by Ayatollah Ali Khamenei when he still does chant death to America. When Javad Zarif, the foreign minister who's supposedly so charming to our negotiating team in Switzerland, laid a wreath on the tomb of Imad Magnia, a radical Hezbollah terrorist who fortunately was killed 7 years ago. That's to say nothing of the behavior of the Iranian regime, whether it's trying to take over Iraq or supporting the Houthis in Yemen. At least they should moderate their words.
All right, let's look at what reports have shown now that we have given in the last number of days, that they wouldn't have to disclose the full range of their nuclear capability beforehand or at the outset of this deal. So they get to spin their centrifuges, some 6,000 of them. They get to keep their nuclear facilities, including the underground facility that they'd be able to run with these nuclear centrifuges. They get the ability to continue to sensitive research, verification, sanctions, and ballistic missiles. What are we getting out of this deal? What is the one benefit the United States gets out of this deal?
Sean, it's hard to say what benefit we're getting at all. Another one that they just walked back last week was their agreement to export all of their uranium stockpiles to a third country, most likely Russia. They just completely reneged on that deal that they had made several months ago. I think because they figured they could get away with it, because President Obama and John Kerry are so desperate to get any deal. That's why I think it's time for us to walk away from the table, to reimpose the sanctions that were suspended, for Congress to impose new sanctions, and to rescind all the concessions we've made and start the negotiations over again from a position of strength, telling Iran exactly what we will not accept. And we should not accept any of the concessions that you just ran through.
All right, Senator, thank you. Senator Cotton, we appreciate it. Another person